Hello and welcome to another Pluma podcast. My name is Silvia Xalabarde and today I have with me a very special guest, Pati Silva, who is a leader on workshops on authenticity, and I know she works with some of the Spanish-speaking community here in Vancouver. That's how we originally met, right?
Yeah.
And she's here to tell us more about her ideas about authenticity, why it is important, and her own personal story about how she got to that point. Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So, let's just start with a very basic question. Why authenticity? What does it mean to you?
I found later in my life that I lived my life based on the rules and what I thought I needed to do and accomplish in life. I come from Peru, and so you grow up with certain standards and paradigms to think about, okay, you got to grow up, be good at school, go to university, get married, have kids, all that.
Okay.
And
it's a pretty good summary. I think, you're saying it like this is just an example, but I think you kind of like hit every point.
yeah,
After you've had kids, that's kind of it, right?
that's kind of it. And also, when it came to choosing my career, I chose industrial engineering because that's kind of what my dad did. I had no idea what to do, and there were 5 or 6 careers that would pay my bills in the future. So that's how I chose my future when I was 16, 17 years old and graduated from high school. And not to say that my life was not great. It was lovely. My kids are wonderful. We came to Vancouver. But later on in life, through some difficult times and some painful moments, I realized, where did I lose Patty herself? What do I really want? What do I like? What am I doing? And is this really what I want? Am I showing up as me or as these kind of combined facades and different costumes that I've worn for so long that it was hard for me to distinguish who was Patty, real me, and who was the person acting in my shoes. Or not that I was not being truthful, but I just didn't feel, I felt the disconnect.
Okay. And was there a particular moment when this kind of clicked for you, where a spark of like a thought like this, or did it happen over time, or can you remember a specific moment or time when you really started thinking about this and taking it seriously?
I think my transformation started when I became a mom with my first daughter. I thought I was following the recipe of being a mom, just the way you're taught, and the way that I was when I was a kid, the way I thought I had to be with my daughter. But she was a very different kid, and she was not like me. She's super sensitive, and she needed connection way more than I was giving her based on what I thought. And I started going to therapy at the time. I started reading books because something was not working, and she was not having a good time. I was not having a good time. And that's the beginning of my journey. It started off as a journey to help my daughter because I thought she was a problem. But in the end, I discovered that I had been disconnected from my authentic self, from my intuition for years. And until I did that, I would not be able to connect with anybody else because I was showing up as this kind of robot that was going through the motions of life, but not really feeling and connected to myself. So that was the beginning of my journey 17 years ago. Well, maybe 16, because she's a little,
Okay.
16 or 15 years ago, that's when it started.
That's a very interesting starting point, and especially considering that it started off, as you say, seeing the problem in somebody else, in your daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
And through her struggles, I started, once I took down the barriers that were protecting my heart and my vulnerability from being hurt, which is why I think I had kind of become this persona, I started relating to her in a way that I could empathize way more because she was going through the same type of struggles that I felt deep down, but I was not able to connect to them. So it took me a while to get to realize that she needed as much connection with others as I did with others, and I was not getting it myself. So that took like 4 years to get to that place. And it was an eye-opener because I realized that I had been isolated, even though I had tons of friends, but I had been so protected of myself and my emotions that I forgot they existed. And that's when I started kind of thinking about authenticity. Came way later in terms of just a way of living. But I started taking down all those barriers, all those different masks that I had put up, like the efficient, productive employee, the perfect mom, the wonderful wife, like all of these roles we play. And I started reconnecting with myself and realizing that there was way more life in there than in the roles I played.
Amazing. And what did that look like in practice, just so we get a sense? So, for example, I don't know if you can think of an example of, at a certain point, I would have done such and such, but then instead,
Yeah, well, it shifted. It's interesting. Sometimes I feel bad that my daughter had to go through this, and that was my aha moment, because the reason I got there was I was being super harsh and strict with her. Bedtime is bedtime, and I would put her in bed and think that I thought she would just go to bed and sleep, but she needed contact with me. And so the first 2-3 years were a battle every night. When I started recognizing she needed a different type of connection, and when my son was born, then my approach to his education and to his discipline was way different. Of course, I had adapted my way of being with my daughter as well, but I went from this disciplinarian mom that enforced the rules to this loving and caring mom that was willing to check on my kids and connect with them at a different level, and be willing to be flexible around what needed to be done to satisfy their needs. So I think that was a big shift at the beginning of my journey.
I kind of identify with that a little bit, because I think, when you have kids, you think, if I just do everything by the book, and then I give them a bath every night and they go to bed and it's a story, then I should be doing amazingly.
But they don't come with instructions, and every kid has a different instruction manual, right? And it doesn't work that way. And that was tough for me, especially that I didn't have that. I come from a household where things were very rigid, and it's a different generation, right? So I thought, well, why, if it worked with me, why wouldn't it work with my kids? But it didn't.
Yeah, and it sounds like it didn't work with you either, not completely, right? Because you felt that to some extent you lost a little part of yourself, even if it worked on at a certain level.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and this is going into a little bit deeper personal stories, but part of my aha moment was, well, my relationship with my husband at the time broke down. So then I was single for a while, and after a while, I started going out with other guys. I had been with my ex since I was 18, so I had never had the dating scene or anything. So I started dating, and I remember the first guy that really took me, like, we started going out kind of seriously. He gave me so much love in a way of just connection and touching, and he was very, I call him the teddy bear, because he would just be in a very kind way giving me all this attention, and with no ill intent, right? And I remember journaling about it and thinking, I feel like I've been starved from this my whole life, and I didn't know. It's like not knowing. You've never had chocolate, you don't know what you're missing. I never knew that I had been missing that. And that was like, wow, I really crave physical touch. And then I went into the 5 love languages and realized that touch is my top love language. And I didn't have that because my parents are not like that. So that was an eye-opener, yet again, of another phase of transition that now I'm willing to seek it out and ask for it, that before I didn't even know I craved it.
Yeah, and you're okay, I assume, with saying this is what I need, and like you know yourself, and you're happy. Maybe not everyone can give that to you, but you're happy to say, okay, I understand myself well enough to know that this is going to be necessary for me to feel okay in a relationship.
Yeah. And that's, it became sort of a prerequisite. Things ended very quickly with this guy, but it did become kind of a requirement. If the other person is not capable of giving me this, I don't want to continue being starved. And I even recall when I was super young, I would sit between my two parents. My parents had a two-seater, and they would watch TV in that two-seater. And when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7, I would squeeze between them just to get the touch, but it clicked only later, right? I was not, right. They're not super touchy and huggy, so I would find it. But then as time went on, because I didn't know I had that need, I kind of suppressed it. And it took me, I don't know, 30 years to find it again. And that's where connecting back to authenticity, that's why it became such an important word and value for me. Because I can now live a life where I know myself, I show up as the only person I know, and I'll ask for what I need. And then I'm okay if, like my kids, my son is super cuddly, my daughter is not so much. So I ask for a hug when I can. If I get it, great. If I don't, that's okay. I know she loves me in different ways, but I do ask for what I need. And same with my partner now. It was a big conversation, and how do we get to a point where we're both meeting our needs.
It sounds like a great story. And so this authenticity thing started at this point, and then how did it develop for you over the years? What forms does it take?
I even went back to understand who was I before I kind of started putting on all these costumes, right? And I discovered that I was way more fun than what I was pretending to be later on, especially when I became a mom. It's like, you got to be responsible. You're a wife, you're a house, you take care of your house. So I went back to the sources of joy, and I started having fun and exploring those kind of things. So what it looks like is now I really pursue what I love, and I connect with, I call it the fire in my belly. And if I go out for a hike in the middle of the snow and I still feel happy, I'll continue. If I'm feeling miserable, I'll turn around and go home. But there's no act. There's no, even if I'm with you and we go for a hike and it's terrible and I'm not feeling okay, I'm just going to tell you, you know what, Silvia, this is not working. But I had to try a lot of things. Especially when I was single, I partied, I went dancing, I went to concerts, and I started reconnecting with things that I had not done, like playing my guitar or even singing at karaoke. And I started, of course, you can only do so much, and it gets to a point where, okay, now I know what I like, and I'll pursue those and feel more connected to myself. And that's when life sort of became one. It's like I was not playing roles anymore, but I am living my life now, instead of having to wear a hat, become one person, wear another hat, become another person. So that's where authenticity comes in.
It's almost like you go into a mode, the way that you're describing it, that you're trying things because you yourself don't know yourself, right?
Yeah. I didn't even understand or enjoy my own company. So I've been through therapy, coaches, and so many things in the last 17 years. I've got so much help that I'm grateful for, and so many books. And one of my homeworks in the first few counseling sessions was, do what you like for 10 minutes just for yourself every day. And I sat there thinking, what do I like? I don't know, because I was running around playing roles. So I remember the first thing I did was watch the sunset, because I know I love sunsets and I love the water. And I reconnected with that. And that's when I realized, oh, yeah, water is kind of my happy place. So I started looking for hikes and things where I could be close to water. And one thing got me to another. And sometimes I tried new things. But yes, I would even go out by myself to listen to live music and just sit there with myself to try to I was reconnecting with myself. And it was a long journey it was hard, but I love it because it got me to a place where now I really know myself. And I wouldn't have been able to build this new relationship with my partner the way I have if I had started off with this kind of combination of there's a drawing, a Picasso drawing, kind of feels like a Picasso drawing that nothing matches, right? And it's all random. But now that I'm authentically one, then I was able to build a solid relationship with my new partner.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Did you find you changed the way you dressed, for example?
I did, yeah. I remember going shopping with my friend, and she's like, "Oh, do you like this or that? Like flowers or plain colors?" I'm like, "I don't know." And it was and she's like, "What? You don't know?" No. I've been guiding myself based on what my then husband wanted me to wear or what I thought. No, I had no idea what I wanted at all, what jewelry I liked, nothing. It was, I always say it was as if I had been disconnected from the head to the heart, right? This connection it didn't exist. And I was operating from a place of mind, cerebral thinking, and no feeling or intuition. And that connection that was severed for many, many years, it came back and it made my life way more fulfilling.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I think the word you used earlier, which really comes to mind, is a recipe, right? It's like you have something in writing, you're following the script, but you're disconnected from the life underneath it, as it were.
Yeah, the question is, whose script is it and who wrote that script? It was not mine. I was playing a role, many roles, in a world, and it went really well. I've been successful. My kids are doing great. I have a great day job. I have great relationships and friends. So I'm not going to diminish the fact that, hey, the recipe worked. But when it came to cultivating meaningful relationships, it wasn't there. That's where I realized I had a lot of friends, but the relationships were very superficial. And they were kind of my hangout friends, party friends, but because I was not open or vulnerable with them, there was not a lot coming back. And even when I started kind of stepping into that vulnerability, they were not there. So because of they couldn't see that side, and so I've changed. My friendships have changed significantly. And maybe I have fewer friends now, but they're deeper and more meaningful relationships that I can be myself, and we can even explore doubts or concerns we have at a deeper level. And it's like they can see me for who I am and not for the roles I play.
Because that was going to be my next question, actually, because a lot of people say, if you go through like a deep change, this has happened to me as well. Like, what happens to your relationships?
Yeah, it's tough, and it's even tougher. Like, my relationships with my high school friends, for example, are almost gone. I couldn't find that connection with them anymore, and I found that my values had changed significantly, and they didn't match theirs. So I've lost some of those connections. I've made really good friends here. But I think the most difficult part is with the family, because the family is used to knowing you for who you were.
Yeah.
And when you come with a different perspective, in some way, it's like you're invalidating them, right? It's like, oh, we taught you better. Why are you acting this way? So right now I'm going through some challenges with the family, asserting myself and trying to live by my values, which are not necessarily the same, and that always creates some tension. So yes, it's hard. And I remember I think I was reading, I love Brene Brown, all of her books, and they were super important in my transformation. And I think it was her that said something around the fact that when you decide to start this journey of living by your values, you're going to end up sometimes not pursuing relationships that you had forever and starting some new ones, and it's going to be hard. I never thought it would take so long and it would be so hard, but yes.
And there could be a time when you feel quite alone, right? It might not be that all of your relationships are immediately replaced.
No, exactly. There's a transition, right? And I feel very fortunate that I never felt alone, and I have cultivated what I call my family here, and they're my best friends. Their families it's 3 of us that are really, really like siblings. So it's my chosen family, and that family has been with me for a very, very long time. And some other relationships are just transitioning, right? And gaining some new ones and distancing myself from some others that don't feel like I just don't feel connected with them anymore. Nothing bad about them, but it's just a different life now. Yeah, it's hard, right?
Very interesting. What do you feel is the toughest part of starting to live more authentically?
It's interesting you asked that. I was just talking to my counselor a few days ago, and I think this is where it's not like clothes, right? You cannot just put the new authentic you on and forget about the old one, because it shows up sometimes. It's still hanging in your wardrobe. You still have some jewelry that you don't want to let go of. And it's tough to straddle both worlds. So, and one of the things that is super hard for me is what will they say? How are they judging me? So those who are being left behind, or those who I'm being more assertive with around my values and things that are not okay for me, and they react and they don't like it, how are they then turning around and talking to the other people that have been left behind and start like a club against you?
Yeah.
And I think I don't really care what they say. I think my biggest fear is, will that ever get to my kids? And what would my kids think?
But what will they say?
We don't know, right? But yeah.
Like what's your fear? So I'm just thinking, I think a lot of people, if they were to, and especially the way that you have described your life story, because I think it can be different for different people. But for those of us who are more like, we wanted to be a good girl and like do everything kind of right as much as possible and everything else, I think one of the fears that people might have, I don't know if this was yours, but might be, if I let go, what will I be? Will I be, and that's why I was asking you, what are you worried that they might be saying? Flaky, or like, unreliable and disciplined? What is it that we're scared of becoming if we just let ourselves kind of be guided more by our heart?
I think for me is, and the reason why what will they say is coming up for me is like, it's a fear of not belonging to that group anymore, right? And it's so important for us as human beings to feel like you belong to something or a crowd, your clan. And that family and friends and all of my connections growing up, that was my clan for years. And if I start changing and distancing myself, I still have a clan here. I have my connections. But it's that discomfort of feeling like I don't belong to what I thought I belonged for so long. And what does that mean about me? Long time ago, I did feel like, is this going to be a phase? And what if I change back and they're going to call me flaky and flip-flopping? But I think I'm all the way into my journey that I'm pretty solid, and I know I'm not going to go back. I cannot comply anymore, quote unquote. But So I think that's less of an issue for me now. It's more about, I don't want my kids to hear comments like, your mom is crazy, she's going through a phase, she's on a midlife crisis, and now she's throwing us all under the bus. Something like that, where I feel it's mostly about my kids. And you know what? Now that I'm saying this, maybe it's okay. And if they do come and talk to me about it, I will be able to explain what are the reasons and where this is coming from. And it would be a very good conversation. But yeah, I think that's my fear. It's my reputation in front of my kids, or how would they see me in terms of, oh, is mom kind of going crazy or influenced by my new partner or whatever, right? Because there's going to be visible change. There must be, for them, seeing me go through this transition.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that earlier you said you still, despite following your heart, let's say, or your authentic self, you still had a good career and you still made relatively good choices. I think some people might be worried. I know I was sometimes worried about this. If I just kind of like let go, will I become a person I don't want to become? Will I just like not hold down a job and be like, I can't get out of bed because like... Yeah.
I worked with a coach for about a year on that, on my unwanted identities that didn't really, even if for example, one of my unwanted identities is to be lazy. Like, I don't want people to think I'm lazy or not committed to something. And through reflection and coaching, I realized that even if I try to be lazy, it's not in my DNA. I cannot, right? So there's something in my brain that doesn't let me. So it's more we kind of exaggerate our unwanted identities, and that exercise of every day, kind of what's that voice in your head telling you, writing it down and looking at it on the other side was super helpful for me to ground myself on facts instead of just the voices in your head that probably came from all that programming in your
in the first place, right? No, that's absolutely right. And then it's like this fear that you can have that if you're your authentic self, then you will have to face the truth. Let's say, do I want to find out if I'm lazy, or is it better that I am held together by this network of ideas and stuff that keeps me in society, right?
Yeah. But I think the fear is bigger than the reality, right? And there's a point when you see it, you cannot unsee it, and you cannot go back. It's one of those things that, I find it hard to go back and try to be that person that I was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. It would be really hard for me because I don't even have it in me. And I like this one better. Maybe I'm not as disciplined with my exercise as I used to be. Absolutely, because I was in a regime and I was like so focused, right? But I'm kinder to myself and I'm kinder to others, and I like that version of me better, right? And I'm just giving you an example. There's trade-offs that I've made in my personality and character that are more attuned to myself, and I'm happier with them. So I really wouldn't want to go back.
Yeah, and I think there is just so much potential energy, or like so much of your energy that in everyday life is kind of diverted towards keeping all of this stuff going, that if you can release it, you can really, you'll find that you probably have a lot more energy, a lot more internal drive than you thought you had. You thought that was your internal drive. That was your drive, right?
The shoulds were the drive.
Yeah.
It was like every day my to-do list and the what should I be doing was what drove me. And at no point during that day I would have a minute for myself and think, what do I want? Or even, what do I want for breakfast? No, it's what do my kids need, or what should I feed them? Is this healthy? And it was exhausting. I was unhealthy and depressed and just not thriving as a person. Maybe from the outside, I was very successful for other people's parameters, but I wasn't happy myself. Yeah.
And since we don't have a lot of time left, it's been absolutely fascinating, but I'm curious, in your workshops, how do you help people reconnect with their authenticity?
Yeah, so when because I grew so much and learned so much about like what I was leaving behind, I became a professional coach in 2020 during the pandemic when we were all rethinking our lives.
Then a virtual coach, I
Yes.
guess.
Yes, it was a virtual course. And that's when I decided I got to give back. What I've learned, this is something I want to give back. And one thing I worked with others, I can't remember how I got to this, but I realized that using my hands, even though I'm not an artist and I'm not very like good with drawing or coloring or anything, using my hands with either crafting or coloring or drawing, doodling, was a way of sort of connecting to myself and learning better. And so what I do is I run workshops usually for women, because I feel so many women are going through this and not even knowing that they're just performing roles. And I want everybody to be happy like I am. So usually I love doing it in person, because then we have magazines and pictures and lots of colors, and we talk about, it depends on the workshop, but sometimes we've talked about power and privilege and how that shows up in your life, and how do you have to show up sometimes to hide either your privilege or your lack of privilege. Or I've had sessions where we just talk about, I recently ran one online where we talked about what was 2025 like for you, and kind of pause and use your hands in whatever way to focus on that. And then what is 2026 gonna bring, and manifest that. Because as soon as you talk to others in community and use your hands, it's kind of like a magical way of manifesting it, sharing, and you feel supported, and then you feel inspired. So that's what I try to do with my workshops.
Wonderful. So last question for you, since it's the 2nd of January today, and we're just starting the new year, do you have a theme or a focus or something special that you want to think about, particularly for 2026?
Yeah, 2026 is going to be a year of transition for me. Through my workshop last month, I realized that I've been in this journey for a long time. And through this journey, since I became a coach, I started thinking about being independent, or more so finding a job in a place where I can make a difference and I can feel the difference. I've been working in a corporate job for 18 years now, and it's 8,000 people. I love my job. I do make a difference, but it's not there anymore. There's the fire in my belly is not
connecting. Okay.
is kind of is not there. So what does that mean? So I don't know. I'm really excited about this year and what will it bring in terms of, is it just changing the way I do the work where I am? Is it switching jobs within the organization? Is it completely going outside? Is it going back to school? Because I've been thinking about going back to school for a while. I think last month I realized I'm spending 8 hours a day at work, and I'm looking at my pension way too often, and I'm thinking, when am I going to retire? But I still have a long way to go, and I shouldn't be waiting for that, because what if I'm not alive or not able to do what I love in 7 or 10 years? So I think this year will be the year where I kind of, again, continue reconnecting with myself, find those pieces or moments that rekindle the fire in my belly, and start picking through it and figure out what the next phase of my life will look like. So I'm super excited.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very nice way to end this podcast, because it makes me think, even though you're talking about how for 15 years you've been on this journey, but it sounds like, and I'm sure you would agree, that it's much more a journey than it is a moment of insight, a destination, but rather the way you show up in life every day, right?
I guess so. Yeah, that's a really good perspective. I think I've become a person who's constantly seeking growth and fulfillment. I think I'm not after happiness or an achievement or a place or a position. At this point in my life, I'm trying to find ways in which I can live my life and feel like I'm bringing meaning, that I'm being, that I help others, that I'm giving back. I've been super privileged my whole life. It's my time to give that back to others. And hopefully, I do believe that if every single one of us is happy and connected to themselves, maybe we wouldn't have so many problems in the world. So that's kind of my aspirational vision: happiness in the world and peace, one person at a time.
Sounds wonderful. So if someone wants to reach out to you for, to know when next authenticity workshops are, or for coaching, if you're still doing it, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I do have a website. My business is called Aquasenda. We can put it in the
we can
notes.
put it hopefully.
I'm on Instagram, where I usually publish all my workshops. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can find it all under the same name. And same for my email, it's patti.silva@aquasenda.com. I do one-on-one coaching online or in person. I run workshops, and I'm also collaborating with different groups like Latin Vancouver and some other foundations to bring what I do to them and their community as well.
And maybe with us.
Of course. I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It was such an interesting conversation, and really thank you very, very much for joining us today. And I think it was an awesome conversation and podcast. So
thanks for having us, and I hope the audience liked it. And thank you. Thank you for having me here. I love the conversation too.